The Philippine Red Cross launches its COVID-19 saliva testing. If successful, they say it may soon replace the more expensive swab tests. The government is still ironing out deals with Sinovac, despite the slated rollout of other vaccines. The Health and Finance Departments deny that the Chinese company is being favored.
Nauna yung Sinovac, sila po yung na-procure muna natin. Pero that doesn't mean na hindi tayo kukuha ng iba pa.
As Metro Manila experiences a post-holiday surge, Malacanang is considering a stricter community quarantine in the region. Child pornography and other forms of online sexual exploitation have worsened amid the pandemic. The government has ordered an investigation into reports that some students have resorted to selling their nudes online to finance their studies. And over in the US, some gorillas in San Diego Zoo have tested positive for COVID-19. Fast, focused, and fearless. Here's everything you need to know as you jumpstart your day. I'm Charles Lejano. COVID-19 testing may soon become less painful, more affordable for Filipinos. This as the Philippine Red Cross launches the pilot run of saliva-based tests. How exactly does this process go? Let's find out in this report from Jenny Dong.
COVID-19 testing usually requires a swab test, a painful process for some as a 6-inch Q-tip-like tool is inserted in one's nose. It can also hurt the pocket, costing as much as 5,000 pesos. But swab tests may soon be a thing of the past. That is, if saliva testing is proven to detect SARS-CoV-2. And the Philippine Red Cross is bullish about the new method. In its pilot run, the agency touted the 95% concordance rate of saliva testing with RT-PCR. This means both swab and saliva tests will likely yield the same result. It's also seen as an easier, faster, and cheaper option.
Yung laway, kumukuha tayo ng sample para sa viral RNA. Ngayon yung sinasabi, nagbago lang tayo, kumpara mo ng sample, imbis na dot-dot galing sa ilong, idudura mo lang yung laway. Napakabilis.
The PRC proposed this method to the Health Department and Food and Drug Administration back in October 2020. President Duterte has also supported this as an alternative to swab test. Over 1,000 healthcare workers in the country will be part of the pilot testing. PRC Chairman and CEO Senator Richard Gordon is among the first to try.
Hindi na kailangan ng PPE. Pwede kayo punta sa bahay, dulura kayo doon. May extra cost ang pagdala sa bahay, dadalhin dito. Good for the senior citizen na natatakot lumabas.
Prior to testing, patients are asked to skip eating, drinking, smoking, or any oral activity. A person's saliva will be deposited using a straw in a 1 milliliter barcoded specimen container. Results will be then out in 3 to 4 hours. Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergeres says this will improve testing capacity once approved. She says the DOH is just waiting for the additional recommendation from experts regarding the protocols.
We already gave our statement to this, no? Inaantay lang po natin na matapos ng Philippine Red Cross yung additional recommendation po ng ating mga eksperto sa kanila para mas maging accurate yung basis natin to adapt the protocol.
Former COVID-19 Task Force Advisor Dr. Tony Liachon agreed that there should be further studies and recommendation from the side of experts before proceeding with such testing. But Senator Gordon is confident that they will get the approval of the DOH and FDA within this week. For News 5, Jenny Dongon, We Are One News.
The Finance Department reveals that the government is still ironing out the deal with Sinovac. That's despite the slated rollout of other vaccines by next month. Speaking on One News' The Chiefs, Finance Assistant Secretary Paula Alvarez explained that the terms of payment with the Chinese pharmaceutical company have yet to be finalized. Although Alvarez insisted the vaccines will be paid for by the government. But she did not disclose whether the government has already released the funds for the initial batch of COVID vaccines.
So ito po, hindi po natin kasi talagang pwedeng pag-usapan kasi yung negotiations is still ongoing. So we are prohibited by law to divulge certain information like this. So, pero pag na-close na po natin yung deal at ni-roll out na po, yun po, pwede na po nating ilabas yan sa publiko.
Alvarez also clarified that the government is not favoring any vaccine brand, since the government's ultimate goal is to vaccinate all 100 million Filipinos in the country.
Nauna yung Sinovac, sila po yung na-procure muna natin. Pero that doesn't mean na hindi tayo kukuha ng iba pa.
Senator Ping Lacson has cried foul over Malacanang's comment that Filipinos are being choosy with vaccine brands. In a tweet, Lacson said that such comment has no place in a pandemic. The veteran lawmaker said this is not a smart information campaign to promote mass vaccination among Filipinos. Instead, Lacson argued that the government should have started by procuring a more effective vaccine to build people's confidence. Here are the biggest stories from the dailies. The League of Cities of the Philippines said LGUs should have the authority to choose their own COVID vaccine brands based on their constituents' preferences. The Philippine Star reports that the LCP is now in talks with at least 8 pharmaceutical firms to discuss the requirements and efficacy of their vaccines. Filipino Star ngayon reports that Metro Manila may revert to another round of stricter lockdowns. That's if the rapid increase of COVID-19 cases continues over the next 2 weeks. PALA spokesperson Harry Roque said they will also monitor the critical care capacity of hospitals. This from the business world, Bangko Sentral Governor Ben Diokno says the worst is over for the economy and that a remarkable rebound is expected this year. Diokno cites the current monetary policy, which he deems sufficient to revive economic growth. The government doubles down on its crackdown on child pornography. This as suspected cases of online sexual exploitation doubled in the past year, as the pandemic has forced people to stay indoors. Lynn Olavario has the report.
3 teenage girls in Dasmariñas, Cavite, ages 15 to 17, were rescued by the National Bureau of Investigation. Pornographic materials of the 3 minors were reportedly sent to a client in the United States from 2018 to 2019. The trafficker, no less than the mother of one of the victims. The U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation reported the case to the Philippine Internet Crimes Against Children Center, or PICA.
There were a lot of indecent and, should we say, lascivious exhibition of private parts of the rescued children. And meron kami pang mga communications between the U.S. and the Filipina subjects concerning the selling of these pornographic materials involving the rescued children.
The Pinay mom was able to evade authorities. The American male had been arrested back in 2019. He already warned the Filipina mom to stop communicating with him. Nonetheless, the NBI will file charges against the mother for violating the anti-child pornography law, anti-human trafficking law, and anti-child abuse law. The victims are now under the care of a non-governmental organization. The NBI says there's now a collaboration between local and foreign agencies to fight online sexual exploitation against children.
We are conducting online surveillance ng mga iba-ibang social media platforms, and we also coordinate with these social media platforms like Facebook, and marami ding mga NGOs helping us to conduct information gathering as to the operations done online.
Human trafficking, online sexual trafficking or sexual crime is a borderless, it's a transnational crime. It's not that easy to operate because you have arrest in other jurisdictions, you have to do operational action in other jurisdictions as well. Kaya kailangan dito mag-usap.
But the government is taking things a step further. They want the National Telecommunications Commission to sanction internet service providers that allow their platforms to be used for online child exploitation. Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles says that from 19,000 suspicious transactions in 2019, cases have more than doubled last year to almost 50,000.
The government is adopting the recommendations of the Department of Justice, which are as follows. First, to direct the NTC to immediately impose sanctions on Internet Service Providers, or ISPs, for failure to fulfill their duties under Republic Act 9775. These duties, may we remind the ISPs, include, number one, immediately notifying the PNP or NBI within 7 days upon knowledge thereof that its server or facility is being used for child pornography. Number two, preserving evidence for purpose of investigation and prosecution. Number three, furnishing particulars of users involved in child pornography. And number four, most importantly for the ISPs, installing available technology to intercept or immediately block access to child porn.
The NBI was earlier ordered to probe into reports that students offered a Christmas sale of their lewd materials online to fund their online classes. UNICEF has already warned about the increasing incidence of online sexual abuse in the country amid the pandemic. For News 5, Lynn Olivario, We Are One News.
Amid reports that some students are struggling to finance their studies, the government says almost 55,000 private school students from over 900 institutions have benefited from cash subsidies during the pandemic. That's according to the latest report of the Commission on Higher Education. Under the Bayanihan 2 for Higher Education Tulong program, private school students received a grant of 5,000 pesos to pay for tuition and miscellaneous fees in 2020. CHED, though, did not disclose figures as to how many students may have been affected by the pandemic. Over in the U.S., several gorillas at the San Diego Zoo tested positive for COVID-19. California Animal Health authorities confirmed this after they tested fecal samples of 2 gorillas who started coughing last week. The zoo hasn't ruled out the possibility that other members of the gorilla troop may have also been infected. Zoo management suspects that the gorillas got the virus from an asymptomatic zookeeper despite them observing strict health guidelines. San Diego Zoo Executive Director Lisa Peterson assures the public that the gorillas' cases are not severe.
So they're doing okay. They're experiencing some mild symptoms, and we continue to observe them. But they're drinking, they're eating, and they're interacting with one another. So we'll continue our observation.
Here are the stories to watch out for later today. Lawmakers over at the lower house are set to discuss the proposed amendments to the Constitution. They are focusing on some economic provisions, as well as a party list system. Makati Police is set to submit additional documents related to Christine Dacera's case as part of their preliminary investigation. These include DNA, toxicology, and histopathology reports of Dacera and the suspects. And the DPWH will finally conduct its safety audit and final inspection of the Skyway Stage 3. And that's how the day is shaping up to be. Join us later at 10 a.m. as we monitor the day's biggest stories from sunrise to sundown. You can also catch One News on the Signal Play app. Register for a free account at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Charles Lejano. We are One News.
Time out tayo, hindi ba? Pag nagta-time out yata, doon